So welcome to another video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
And today we are doing something quite different. Today we're doing a review of a role-playing game.
I don't know that we've ever done that.
No. I
First
think
time.
that's true. So...
We probably should have with a couple of the ones we've played that we really enjoyed.
Yeah, probably. So... If you follow us, you probably know that we do love role-playing games, and every so often we'll pick up a campaign and we'll play that pretty hardcore. I know we're getting into one soon enough. But today we wanted to feature something on the channel because it kind of fits in with a lot of the rest of the stuff that we do. So...
A historical RPG.
Yes. So today we're talking about Nations and Cannons. So we discovered Nations and Cannons a year ago.
At Gen Con.
At Gen Con, it was 2022, and I had never heard of it before, and we were just kind of rolling around, and kind of like on a corner booth, there were some guys, and they had all of this kind of American Revolutionary War era artwork and paraphernalia kicking around. It said Nations and Cannons on a big old banner. And so we immediately stopped what we were doing and
Dropped,
kind of pulled over for a chat.
$150, I think, and bought quite a bit, and bought more this year, by the way.
So, Nations and Cannons is a module for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, and it basically transports you as a historical module to be able to play D&D in a historical setting within the American Revolutionary War, or kind of that period. But it's specifically this kind of focuses on that region as well. So I have my little D&D 5th edition Dungeon Master's Guide here. You have to, this uses D&D 5th edition. You need to have and know these rules. This is a module for D&D. So in this you get a new class type, you get a rework of the magic system, so to speak, and then you get lots of historical information. So there's the historical weapons and how all those, because there's lots of firearms and stuff, right? How that works within the rule set of D&D, because it is not the same as playing a gunslinger or whatever they call them in this game.
Yeah.
A swashbuckler, I think. And it was fascinating talking to those guys and kind of hearing what they had to say. And they had all these nice maps out, which
we need to mention it's Flagbearer Games.
Yes.
So the producer of this is Flagbearer Games. So they have a IP to do this. They did a Kickstarter initially, and now they just did a second Kickstarter.
Yeah. So they did we bought this. This is kind of like their core module that says this is how you play this. They just did a Kickstarter earlier in 2023. For a big kind of
resource book.
Yeah. So
historical resource
book. It's a source book, but also has a lot of campaign and plot hook type things that you can do as well. I don't think it has pre-gen adventures in it, but it'll have the bones to be able to build that very easily.
Yeah.
And so we ate it up. We bought this last year at their booth. We picked up a set of their cool little dice that they have.
Red, white, and blue dice, which are very neat.
And then we bought, we also picked up the map of New York. So this is a lovely canvas printed map with a historical, this tiny little Manhattan on it.
Yeah.
And that came with a PDF of a gazetteer of cool things that you can find there. Some of it's historical locations. Some of it's obviously got some embellishments in it too as well. So I think... Oh, and I got a Misfires deck. But that's what we kind of picked up last year. And probably about, 6 months later at Buckeye Game Fest.
At the end of April.
I ran a game of this. We played, I was a Dungeon Master. We played with yourself, Bill Simone, Russ Wetley, and David Thompson. And... I had a lot of requests from other people to play, because everyone loves to play an RPG, especially if they don't have to run it. But I was... because it was my first time doing this system, I was like, we're just going to do one little small session of people who are kind of hardcore, and I know them, so it was a bit of an invitational, just so that if it was awful or didn't work, I wasn't going to disappoint people and have wasted their time necessarily, who weren't understanding of that. So... I planned an adventure because in the back of this core book there is an adventure that you can run, and it's pretty cool. It's a little bit bare bones. You'd have to kind of add more meat to it. It's really like 3 or 4 pages of like linked kind of story ideas, but you have to add a lot of flesh to it, I think. But we ran an adventure of this. I had a good time running it, and I think all the players at the table had a good time. So we just wanted to kind of sit down and let you know what this is and why it's cool, and if you might be interested in it.
Well, because the Venn diagram for this is really RPG players, people that enjoy role playing, and then people that like history as well. So there's an intersection. We love D&D.
Love role playing.
I've only played 5th edition a couple of times. I'm more of a Pathfinder. Third edition D&D, 3.5 even. But we always have an open mind. We've played the One Ring a couple of times. We've played a couple of others off and on. Star Wars, we love that. We're always on the lookout for, we have Blade Runner, I think, that we just got.
Yeah.
So we do enjoy dabbling in other settings and other systems. And this one was one that kind of, once again, D&D, role-playing with historical setting, I was immediately attracted to it. In fact, I think as we walked by the booth initially, I thought, well, this is perfect. You know, this is something we really can get into. I'm a huge historical fan of the American Revolutionary War. I'm an American. You're now an adopted American.
I am technically an American citizen.
But you're on the losing side of this conflict.
I'm on the winning side now, baby.
Yeah, you're on the winning side now. But, we were immediately drawn to it. There's a lot of familiarity. The changes to the system really make it, bound into the real world. There's no spells. There's no cleric running around casting a heal spell on you, but you have things called gambits, and they are in essence specialized skills. Like I played the bard guy,
a firebrand, which is the new class in this.
Yeah, I played that class where I was convincing and I could rally people's courage with a speech and then have some kind of misdirection style gambits or spells where I'm confusing people or getting them off guard, and it was really fun. So I felt like I was playing that bard rogue like guy, kind of running around looking to do different things. Some others, we had a barbarian, basically had a 2-handed claymore sword. I think he was Spanish, Portuguese maybe. We had a ranger who was a Cherokee Indian, I believe.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that was really cool in reading this is what they did to make it, kind of reasonably fit within history and a bit more like grounded and realistic. You don't have spells, spellcasters, but the effects of spells they put into mundane things that you had to be skilled at or have some special luck to do.
Yeah.
So the effects of something like Hold Person, right? You can't cast a Hold Person spell in the 1700s, but you could give a scathing speech to kind of like embarrass them and paralyze them in public.
Yeah.
And you'd have some similar mechanical effects to a Hold Person or something like that. Or Bill had he had some things that like the smoke bomb.
Yeah.
Like it was this is like a physical trap, but you cast the spell, and the casting time is you preparing that and setting it up.
Right.
And then it like creates.
It had like a nauseous gas, so it was similar to something like a stinking cloud or a fog spell, something like that.
So some things like don't translate, but they did a good job of putting enough in there for it to still be interesting if you want to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But then you also have like, hey, I've got my 2-handed claymore and I can go around and slash people. I've got guns, or I'm like very adept at like using pistols or switching between weapons. Or I think Bill had throwing axes, which was really cool.
Right.
So they did a really good job of moving some of that stuff away from like paranormal or spell magical stuff and making it mundane, but still have those cool D&D effects, which I thought was a really good credit to the system.
But I do want to point out that you, as the game master,
yes,
decided to insert kind of a Cthulhu-esque,
a Lovecraftian horror element.
You had one of the enemies who basically was a worshiper of dark powers and used some rituals, and he basically sacrificed some people to summon a Wendigo, which, if you know anything about a Wendigo in North America, that's a legend. It's very similar to, the legend of the Bigfoot.
Yeah,
there's
like
the Wendigo.
not real.
Not necessarily proven, but there's a legend out there. So we ended up fighting this like 8-foot tall Wendigo creature. You brought a cool miniature. We had a great time with it. Everybody was like really enjoying it. It was fun, and so that I think that line kind of, because there is some of that in our world, right? There's voodoo. There is some of that superstition.
Yes, and that's what's really cool about this, is that they talk about that in this, where you can have it totally normal and mundane. And I tried to make that adventure be as mundane as possible.
Well, we literally fought some British troops. We had to break a prisoner out. We had to assault a compound where this evil guy was staying. So that was all very historical, right? We met up with a patriot militia who was looking to besiege this fort, and we're like, hey, we can help you. And we crafted a plan, which is one of the hallmarks of all RPGs. You gotta
a crazy plan.
You argue about a plan for 40 minutes and then try to execute it. Ironically, both of our plans went off 100% as planned.
Had some very good rolls,
and it was because we rolled well,
very
right?
well.
But we had a blast. It was engaging. It was interesting to play the mechanics, and the system felt very cool. I enjoyed everything about it, and it was exactly what I wanted it to be, because I was immersed in that world that I know historically, and I know a lot of that historically. I've read many, many books on it, and there's a lot of that element that you can put in there. Maybe there might be a mission down the road where we have to try to turn Benedict Arnold before he, betrays West Point, but there's all kinds of things like that. You can get into battle formations. We did some of that.
There's like full-blown these artillery rules where you need like 3 or 4 people to crew an artillery piece.
And there's special dice for that, right? They're not really special. They're just 6-siders.
But they're aluminium metal, and they've got a bunch of decoration on them.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. But you're gonna throw those dice for the different type of explosions. Like I used a hand grenade. I had found a hand grenade, and I threw a hand grenade into a barracks full of British soldiers as they were sleeping, and I literally rolled a critical hit.
Yes. So it set the building on fire, and everyone died.
Yeah, it was, so we probably ultimately saved our lives, and it was hilarious.
It caused a big distraction.
Yep. It was great. It was perfect RPG stuff.
It was so cool because you can do as normal as you want, or you can go like full, like there's like, you can do Sleepy Hollow with like Headless Horseman. You could do like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter nonsense if you wish. Like there's rules for banshees and stuff in a separate PDF. But like you can do as crazy as you want, or as like normal and mundane as you want, and whatever level of hero you want within that.
Yeah, and
it was so fun to run that.
Yeah, like I said, even without the Wendigo, and I point over there because there's the mini.
Yeah, let me grab it.
But even without that mystical, fantastical, Cthulhu-esque experience, we had a blast coordinating our actions, devising plans, executing those plans. The fun banter that you get into when you go into a tavern trying to find your one contact, and you're like a dumb idiot. My wisdom was low. and I'm like asking, where's this guy? And they're like, who are you talking about? And they're like, I know who that guy is. Shut up.
Shut up.
But those are the kind of things that role playing is about. So you can turn anything into an interesting, fun, engaging experience. And I thought our group bought in really well.
Yes.
They bought into the system. And actually, the system has a lot of damage. Like, those guns are very powerful.
Oh yeah, it's much more lethal than regular
So
D&D.
you can kill like a soldier, an enemy soldier with one shot. I mean, it's not easy. You still got to hit them, but it's pretty lethal, and it's also lethal to you. I think we
Yes.
did we have characters die, or did they just go unconscious?
We definitely had a few unconscious, and if the battle against the Wendigo had not gone any
they would have
better,
passed. They would have
very bad.
expired. But to me, this is a very interesting system. Very well done. Very well integrated into an established system that works, that people love. And I had a blast, and I cannot wait until the next time that we play it.
Yeah, so I think I really liked preparing this adventure because I've never done anything like it before, and it was really fun to like do research and to like throw in like Easter eggs and stuff because whilst you might not like meet Thomas George Washington. I was thinking of Thomas Jefferson. Sorry, I got it mixed up. Like, you might not meet him, but like you might meet someone who
one of his aides
knows him, and you get like the little, you were close to someone from history, or like I threw in some bits and pieces of like his spy rings, which you can all look up on Wikipedia.
The Culper ring,
and so like, one of the agents in that ring, I named an ale after that person. And just like, it doesn't mean anything, but it was just fun for me to like have sat there and read a whole bunch of stuff and like to throw bits and pieces of that in. And it was really fun doing that. And one shots are kind of tough because you have to like have an enclosed story.
Well, it's got to be like 3 to 4 hours too, and it was right at 4 hours. I think we started at 8 and we're done at midnight.
I really tried when I was writing it. I'm like, okay,
we can do this, this, and this, and that's probably
really that's it, because I want to give time for you to like mess around, and make plans and like do that stuff, and so that was interesting, and to like make it hopefully end on a decent crescendo way. We did some heroic stuff.
Ultimately, ended up ending perfectly.
And so I'm very thankful to all the players at the table who contributed to telling a great story and also like making it progress and like experiencing all of that.
Yeah.
But also I'm like super excited to do more with it.
Oh,
because there was I got so many messages after we decided, because we bought this in 2022, and part of me in my brain was like, sure, this is one of those things we're going to buy. It's going to sit on the shelf like a lot of stuff that I have on my shelf. And then we were getting close. Well, like time went on, and I was thinking about Buckeye Game Fest, and I was like, well, why don't we just do it? Why don't we just do it? Because I think about Buckeye Game Fest, and I'm like, what war games are we going to play? I'm like, well, let's do something a bit different. And after we decided to do that, and I publicized it, a lot of people was like, do you have any space at the table? Do you have any space at the table? Okay, cool. So next year I might run a couple sessions of it.
Well, and maybe we could plan for 6 players so you can, that way 12 people could experience it. But a group of 6 can be daunting.
That's a bit more unwieldy, or it takes a bit longer. So
might have to start earlier.
Or make a shorter adventure. I don't know. That's what I got to figure out. But I look forward to doing much more of this.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm thinking, maybe when we go to San Diego Comic,
maybe do one.
Historicon, I might do a session there if people are interested as well. But I was also... part of this is, so we went back to Gen Con this year, we went back here, picked up more of the maps.
We bought 3 additional maps.
Yes, and I had backed the Kickstarter for the big source book that's going to have a ton of more stuff in it, which would be cool.
It'll probably be helpful in creating a campaign and developing more missions.
But it has way more detail about more of the like geographical area as well.
Got it.
So I'm excited from a source standpoint as well, because I might get some inspiration from those things.
And I would argue, all you got to do is just do a little research on the internet, and you can come up with 15 different kind of paths to, like you mentioned, the Culper spy ring, or the Benedict Arnold story, or there's Ethan Allen and the Green Boys in Vermont and Maine and Southern Canada. I mean, they had a great story, kind of a bunch of Rangers running around, and George Rogers Clark in the Western theater. There's so much opportunity.
And it's so wildly different. Imagine if we did like a Savannah, Georgia campaign, right? That's
Well,
totally different, right?
You bring that up. They did inform us at the booth as we were standing there that their next Kickstarter, they didn't know when it would be. They haven't fulfilled the one they just did a couple of months ago, but they're looking at a Southern theater. So we're
Which
talking.
I'm all in on that.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking North South Carolina, Virginia, down into Georgia,
Even into, like,
into
Florida.
and there's a whole different. There weren't large armies down there. There weren't as
that's
many large
perfect
campaigns.
for
Right.
D&D, right?
It was smaller skirmishes. You know, Morgan and his riflemen and Cowpens and Camden. These were not huge pitched battles. They couple 300-400 guys on each side, but that's going to be totally different. Charleston. I mean, what a key city in the South. Savannah, another very key city in the South. And you know, you could bring in the Spanish because they were a part of that American Revolutionary War, the French. You know, I don't think we encountered any French guys. No. Maybe we did. But I mean, there's just so much opportunity. And once again, it's all based in history and you can do with it whatever you want.
And the other aspect of this is that, generally speaking, this book, you can be pretty flexible with it. You could go back to French and Indian War, no one would know.
Right.
So that unlocks all of that.
Yep.
You could push this probably to War of 1812 as well, without much issue. And then it's like, you could transport this to a number of places as well. I think you could do some very interesting bits and pieces with it. And funnily enough, you know, after we did it at Buckeye Game Fest and it was a success, I've been non-stop thinking about what to do next time. And so in my brain, I thought, well, I want to do something that's very different because just to shake it up and just to see what the system can do.
Sure.
And so in my brain, I thought, what if they were sailing like the USS Hannah, which was like one of the first US kind of warships. There was a little sloop and it was used like once or twice and then it was decommissioned. And then when we were at Gen Con, after we bought some more
walking
maps,
around,
we stopped and found this bad boy, which is Blood and Plunder. This is a 2-player naval skirmish game in 28mm.
with great miniatures.
With sloops and schooners in it, friends, with English in them. So I'm like, well, we have to buy this.
Yeah.
So I've got a tactical skirmish game I'm going to play, but also I bought this as props to use the Nations and Cannons as well.
Well, and we didn't bring it over, but you bought a small kind of war canoe.
Yeah, because I'm like, well, we got to have that.
Yeah, I mean,
because we're going to do that at some point.
Paint that sucker up and we can go up and down a river and
that's like a whole other adventure.
Yeah.
Like that's, so
lots you could do.
I really enjoyed playing this.
Oh, yeah.
And it was such an interesting paradigm shift from playing like fantasy D&D to doing this, but it was so fun.
Yeah. It was just different.
Being within the constraints of something that's historical, being like, oh, I can't do this, can't do that. But also, there's so much more stuff than is available in like medieval fantasy.
Yeah.
So it was really neat. I'm very excited to play more of this.
The miniatures that you painted and we used, were those Firelock?
These are from Warlord Games. These
okay.
are their 28mm black powder miniatures. And technically you base those in like armies and like big rows of them, like Napoleonics, but I base them individually because I have a skirmish game that we have never played that I will one day play.
We have a problem with buying things like that.
But then I can cross-use them very easily into D&D and stuff like that. So, Nations and Cannons, it gets a huge thumbs up.
Oh, it's fantastic.
It's incredibly
very
niche.
Fun.
I hope that everyone can get a group that would try this at least once, though, because it sounds really corny, but like role-playing in the AmRev is so fun.
Well, it's
totally different.
Let me just I just want to give a very brief summary of the adventure, right?
Absolutely.
So we're patriots. We were asked to seek out a prisoner that was supposedly being moved. So we had to kind of do the intelligence gathering, talking to people on the street and looking around for clues. We went down to the docks, which we heard they were taking them down there, and we kind of struck up conversations with the British sailors down there. We gleaned a little information, and we finally went back to our kind of rally point, which was at a tavern. We got more information. We realized that they were going to move the prisoner kind of down this way. So we put a scheme together, right? We decided to fill a wagon with hay and manure, set it on fire, and roll it out into the alley, acting as a barricade to the British guys moving down. And then hilarity ensued, right?
I mean, set something on fire, classic D&D.
Right. The barbarian freaked out. He kind of threw the wagon towards the British. Our sniper on the roof kind of took out a guy. We threw a smoke bomb. I set a trap and caught a guy in a bear trap. Ultimately, we found out that the prisoner was not the guy we were looking for.
Yes.
And that this was a decoy. So we interrogated her, and she was I can't remember all the details.
She was just some poor woman
that they
had
put a bag over her head.
Basically.
So then we realized, oh crap, they've moved the prisoner out to this Lord Mernyon Terrell, blah, blah, blah's mansion.
Major General Lord Arthur Cathcart.
There you go. Some little mansion he had out in...
The longer the name, the more evil the
yeah,
character.
but out in the countryside. So we made our way there, and we ran into a skirmish patrol for some patriots, and we talked to them, and we decided they were going there too, and we were going to go with them and help them. And we scaled over the walls, threw a grenade in the barrack, shot a bunch of guys, fought a line of British soldiers, and then went into a church that had a bunch of muddy footprints going in and out of it.
Big piles of dirt out the side.
Because they had been excavating.
And as soon as I said that, Bill was like, "Oh, I didn't know we were playing Call of Cthulhu."
Yeah, right. So we
great.
went into the basement of the church, and we encountered what's his name, Lord Cathcart.
Yes.
And doing some ritual, and he summoned the Wendigo, and we fought the Wendigo and killed them both and saved the day. And it was just a blast. I mean, it was I've never been in an RPG group where everything went according to plan. Nobody messed up.
I've also never seen that before.
We rolled well. We rolled well enough to do what we needed to do. We rolled super well on some things, and I had a blast. So I really enjoyed it. I think there's a lot of opportunities to do other things and many other things. Look forward to playing this maybe once or twice a year at different conventions and having a good time with it. So, and I also look forward to that source book. I want to see it and kind of see what's in it.
Yes, and for reference, anyone who was turned off by the price of these canvas maps, they'll have a little,
PDF.
one-page version of that, but all of the gazetteer information that comes in a PDF when you buy these will be printed in that as well. So
got it.
If you buy that book, you're pretty much getting everything that they've released. You're not going to be missing out on
and
stuff.
these were expensive. I think they were...
Are they like $40
$40 a piece, but they're material, they're full color, they're very nice. Yeah, they maybe fleeced us, but you know what? They're good.
They're a great piece to have on the
they
table.
Are. And we had this map laid out as you were describing where we were going.
And it is an actual map.
Yeah.
And there are places where they went and we followed. And
we kind of walked down here, right?
So you can use it as a map, but also it just looks wonderful to have on the table and to kind of set the scene.
Yep.
But yeah, I had a wonderful time running
That was
this
awesome.
and watching the craziness happen. I look forward to doing much more of this in the future as well.
And I would say the art in this is really excellent.
They have a very defined style.
Yep.
That's almost this black and white sketch style, but it's really good. They did a really good job.
And here's some of the classes. You have a renegade, scholar, pioneer, officer, scout, veteran. The firebrand was the one I played. And then there's classes.
Yeah, those are backgrounds.
Those are
for your
backgrounds,
characters.
right? And then there's classes, and there's a ton of them.
Yeah, there's
Firebrand, Barbarian, Fighter, Ranger, Rogue.
And they have new subclasses for those.
Yeah.
It's
anyway,
very neat.
Very well done. I think it's very well explained. Love the art, love the look and feel. I enjoyed it. So I think this is a high quality RPG that I think people can enjoy.
Yeah.
And really have a good time with.
And just this source book has all the enemies you'll ever need in it, and there's different it's a very good, and it's really this small little book, well worth the price of entry as well.
It's not really thick.
I was very surprised at how much is packed into it.
Oh yeah. Well, one final comment that I would have, being that firebrand, you had asked me to kind of prepare
Yes.
a speech. So I thought about who we were, and what was going on in those days, and I thought I did a pretty good job of
I
coming
agree,
up with
you
a
did.
very interesting speech where I talked about King George stepping on our neck and keeping us down, and now it's time to step on his neck and fight back and blah blah blah, and everybody at the end was like, yeah, you know, and that was fun.
Yes.
I made a roll, and I think I rolled well and encouraged everyone, but that's what role playing's about.
Yeah,
enjoying those
that
kind
would
of
have
things.
been that would have been a morale check in any other game, but in this one,
and you would have just rolled a die.
We got a speech,
Yep,
and
and
we
it was
did
fun.
it, and everyone was like excited,
Yeah,
and
it was
happens. Those are the moments that you love RPGs
Very good.
for. So yeah, Nations and Cannons from Flagbearer Games.
Check it out.
You gotta
definitely
check
worth
it out. At least go and have a look on their website.
Yeah, nationsandcannons.com. Pretty simple.
Yes, and I had a wonderful time playing this. We'll play much more of this in the future as
Yeah,
well.
my guess is this is one of those things we'll do annually, and that's great. You
Yeah.
know, for the money we put into it and the time, playing once or twice a year will be fantastic.
And I genuinely think that RPG experiences are invaluable.
No,
There's
agreed.
like a war game is a war game. You moved some counters around, you had a good time. You get memories out of RPGs that
you don't
will
get other
never
ways.
forget.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think that being able to provide that for people is I
awesome.
find joy in that as well.
Agreed.
So yes, check this out. Go and look and buy it. Support them. They're doing something that no one else is doing at the moment, and it's huge credit to them. So appreciate everyone for tuning in. I've been Alexander from theplayersaid.com.
And I'm Grant.